Carson Beck has committed to the University of Miami. Joe, yesterday this came out, and a lot of people were, I don't want to say shocked that he entered the portal, but I think it was kind of because he had announced that he was going into the NFL draft, I think for some people that don't cover the University of Georgia, we're a little taken back by it. But today, in less than 24 hours of Carson Beck entering the transfer portal, he is also committed to the University of Miami. Now, I'm just going to say, what I know a lot of people are going to come into this chat and say is women are undefeated. And that's probably what a lot of people are going to say. But Carson Beck has committed to the University of Miami, the former Georgia quarterback. Your thoughts?
So multiple layers to this. One, the draft aspect of it, there was no realistic path that he was going to go in the first round. He had an extra year of eligibility. If there was a way for him to go back, do the Cam Ward thing, even if it wasn't at Miami, it was better for him. The injury was huge for his draft projection. I don't know his recovery timetable or if he'll even be able to start week one. I'm not familiar with elbow injuries. It seems like if he's committing to Miami that's going to be the case. But the NFL is not going to be as patient. They're not going to want to evaluate somebody who had a bit of a shaky year and is dealing with a very significant injury to the most important part of his body, which is his arm. The second part about this, you alluded to it. Man, I'm so shocked that a guy in his early 20s who's got a Lamborghini wants to go to Miami so he can go to school with his beautiful girlfriend. I am so shocked that that's the outcome here, man. I could probably have guessed how this went down. He probably got the feedback from his agent saying that, hey, they're saying day 3, maybe this isn't worth it. Probably was talking to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was probably like, well, why don't you talk to Coach Cristobal? They need a quarterback. And then boom, here we are. And now they're both, nice and happy. This is big though for Miami because their quarterback situation, it was a little bit unclear. Carson Beck is experienced enough that I think that it elevates that room. It's going to be different than the Cam Ward era, but to have that experience is going to be super important.
Well, technically he's got 2 years because he came in 2020, so he has the COVID year. He only played in 4 games in 2021 and took a red shirt, okay? And then so now he's got 4 years to play. So he had sophomore, junior, senior, okay? But technically because of the COVID year, okay, that he had, and because of the redshirt freshman year, he technically has 2 years based off of that. I don't think we get there.
No.
Here's the thing with me about Carson Beck. What Carson Beck are you getting? Are you getting the Carson Beck that could lead you to 4,000 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and who can run a little bit? Joe, 2 years ago, Carson Beck had 4 rushing touchdowns. So pushing that 30, 40, 35, 40 touchdown marker. But this year, I think a lot was made on him because of the interceptions. He had three interception games. He had some bad games. But I don't think that he necessarily had the help around him, and it led to bad decisions. They couldn't run the ball. He had a bad wide receiver core that couldn't get open. They led the SEC in drops. It was a bad ordeal for Georgia. You go to Miami, Joe, in a conference that, quite frankly, you have weapons at wide receiver. You have dudes at wide receiver. And then another thing is you're not going through that gauntlet every week. Joe, they had the number 1 strength of schedule in the country, and you're basically asking me if I want a quarterback that can complete around 68 to 72% of his passes, can throw for 4,000 yards, and that can have 30 touchdowns. Is that what you're asking me? Now, here's the thing about the elbow. Football people will freak out about it. Brother, as someone who covers baseball literally from January to June, I've seen this injury more, and guys come back and dominate. Like I literally see dudes. And by the way, you're talking about a guy that's on the mound that's throwing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pitches. This is a football, right? Like, and I get that it's a different sport. You're taking hits. I think the recovery is massively different. How does he come back from the injury is going to be a big deal, and we got to see how he comes back from the injury. But I feel pretty confident, if I got to be honest, because reading into it, the nerve damage isn't bad, right? And so when you get into injuries like this, especially baseball injuries, it's the nerve endings that start having the biggest issues. Actually, like carpal tunnel too, like it's a whole ordeal. If he can, I just feel like this is going to be a good opportunity for him. But I'm really interested to find out, did Georgia want to move away from him or did he want to leave? I think that's more the story here than anything. But I think that he can go to Miami and be a really good quarterback depending on health.
I think he's going to be a great player in the ACC. You just talked about the level of competition is going to be lower. He's not going to be facing as many. I mean, he's not going to have to deal with Ole Miss. That was one of his worst games. One of his worst games the first time they played Texas. He's not going to have to deal with that defensive line. He's not going to have to deal with the Alabama defensive line. The gauntlet that he saw is going to be a third of the level of competition. I don't want to hear anyone complain about me talking down on the strength of schedule in the ACC. There's a proven fact that we saw him play the hardest strength of schedule, and he's probably going to play somewhere in the 70s or at the very best 50s or 40s if they actually do face a tough ACC schedule and say their opponents end up having good years. But the biggest part, and we were critical of him, but I thought it was really lazy just for people to generalize and go, oh, Carson Beck sucks. He can't play quarterback. That's not true. We have a sample size of the year prior where he was phenomenal. There was a drop-off because the receiver performance was terrible. No Ladd McConkey, no Brock Bowers. When he didn't have those guys in his first year starting, we saw that level of performance. So now he's going to a situation that has good receiving talent, a good offensive coordinator that is going to be able to take more pressure off his shoulders, and a team that actually establishes the run. And I would argue maybe a stouter offensive line, a better coached offensive line. This is just a better system for him. And if he probably won't throw the Cam Ward numbers and do the Cam Ward stuff because he's not Cam Ward. He's not going to be calmly hanging out in the pocket and then delivering crazy passes with insane velocity. But I think that completion percentage could be in the high 60s, low 70s, and end up putting up some big numbers.
Well, Joe, I'm going to push back. I think that he 100% can put up Cam Ward numbers because of the amount of
Well, I'm saying he's not going to do the highlights, like Cam Ward's one of them.
Okay, well, fair. But, I mean, at the same time, you're talking about a kid 2 years ago threw for 4,000 yards, right? Like, I mean, it's not – I think that you're right in reference to the level of how everything else around him got worse. And they blamed every single instance on him. So, I mean, look, it is what it is. I do think that Shannon Dawson is a better overall play caller than Mike Bobo, and I do think that you're right. And the talent, it's a win-win. And, oh, by the way, you have like you said, you're going to hang out with your girlfriend and drive a Lamborghini in Miami. I mean, like, it's not like this is going to suck. And, by the way, you were in Miami last night, so you know the vibe around that place anyway. So, good on Carson Beck. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds from the injury, and we'll